Everyone in life must pass through bumpy roads, where every step bears the mark of challenges, of stumbles, of worries that seem endless. There are nights we lie still in the dark, hearing our hearts sigh, wondering why life is so exhausting. Why do we try so hard and yet still can't find peace? But then, it seems the more we chase, the more we lose ourselves. Could it be that what we've lost in the hustle and bustle of life isn't time, but rather the stillness within our soul? The Buddha taught that when the mind is at peace, the world around you is also at peace. A seemingly simple statement, yet it's the key to unlocking the door of inner freedom. In this life, there's one path we cannot choose: surrender. And only one road we cannot refuse: growth. For only when we dare to face ourselves do we understand that suffering is an essential part of life. Every challenge is a lesson. Every loss is an impetus for us to learn contentment, to let go, to return to a peaceful mind. A person with inner freedom isn't someone who has never suffered, but someone who has learned to walk through suffering with a serene heart. They are like a lotus blooming from muddy soil. Despite the surrounding darkness, it still blossoms brightly, diffusing a gentle fragrance without being troubled. Just like the full moon, though obscured by clouds, it remains perfectly round behind them. The human mind is similar. If we maintain clarity and contentment, then no matter how turbulent life becomes, our hearts will remain like a tranquil pond reflecting the sky. Contentment isn't resignation, but knowing when to stop. When we are content, we no longer suffer from wanting too much, no longer tire ourselves out striving, and no longer grieve over things beyond our reach. A content person will be grateful for every breath, every morning light, every simple meal in life, because they understand that happiness isn't found in distant places, but hidden in the small things around them. Some people spend their whole lives searching for peace, believing that only with much money, fame, or loved ones will they find joy. But then, the more they acquire, the more they fear losing it. It's like clutching sand in your hand. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. In truth, peace isn't about holding on, but about the ability to let go. When we no longer care about winning or losing, no longer crave what hasn't arrived, everything naturally becomes lighter. Someone asked, how can one achieve inner freedom amidst a life full of changes? The Buddha taught to return to your breath, to each present moment. Don't let your mind wander endlessly to the past, for the past is gone. And don't fear the future, for the future hasn't arrived. Only this moment is real. When our minds are anchored in the present, all worries will gradually fade away. In fact, life is inherently imperfect, but it's precisely in that imperfection that we learn the lessons of gratitude and compassion. When grateful, we no longer blame life or others. When compassionate, we no longer wish to harm anyone, even with a single word. And in that very moment, our body and mind become light as clouds, free as a mountain stream. Inner freedom doesn't come from prayers, but from daily practice, from letting go of every resentment, every smallest craving. Every time we reduce a thought of comparison, our mind gains a wider space of peace. every time we are content, happiness smiles within our own hearts. And then we realize the path to peace is not far away. It lies right within each step, each breath, each thought. Mindfulness. When we know how to return, when we know how to cherish the present, our body and mind naturally find peace, and life naturally becomes tranquil and happy. Because ultimately, the most precious thing isn't what we possess, but a soul that knows how to dwell peacefully amidst the impermanence of life. Each person's life is like a long river. Some stretches are clear and gentle, while others are raging floods, full of muddy turbulence and rocks. Whenever we face adversity, we often want to avoid or resist it. But the more we struggle, the more exhausted we become. The Buddha taught that if you cannot accept it, change it. If you cannot change it, let it go. Just a brief statement, yet it contains the entire art of living serenely. For in life, if we know how to accept, our hearts open. If we know how to change, our minds become lighter. And if we know how to let go, our minds achieve inner freedom. These three things are the three keys that unlock the door to happiness, which all of us are searching for. There are days when we feel weary with our own lives. Work isn't satisfying. Loved ones don't understand us. Piled up worries make us feel lost at a crossroads of life. The question arises in our hearts: why do I do good, yet still suffer? Why does love turn into pain? In truth, none of us has never experienced such moments. But the difference between those who suffer and those who are at peace lies in whether they accept or resist. When we accept, we pause to observe, to listen, to understand that everything happens due to conditions. When we resist, we only make our minds more agitated, losing the peace that was inherently within us. The Buddha taught that all phenomena arise from causes and conditions. When conditions align, they exist. When conditions dissipate, they vanish. What in this world truly lasts forever? A person close yesterday may become a stranger today. The joy that arrived this morning may turn into sorrow by evening. This entire life is just a flow of impermanence, yet we stubbornly try to cling to what has passed. Acceptance isn't giving up. It's understanding that everything has its causes and conditions, and what we need to do is keep our minds peaceful amidst all changes. When we know how to accept, we stop blaming life and others. We understand that those who hurt us are also suffering, and in that suffering, they've forgotten how to love. Mrs. Hoa, from the countryside of Nam Dinh, was such a person. All her life, she lived kindly, knowing only her rice paddies year-round, simple meals, and the sound of chickens at noon. In her old age, she lived with her son and daughter-in-law. One day, she woke up early to cook rice as usual. She washed the rice, lit the stove, and boiled water. But that morning, her daughter-in-law woke up late and, feeling rushed and annoyed, looked at the tray of rice and immediately complained, "How can anyone eat cold rice like this?" Her voice was sharp, her eyes cold, and the small kitchen fell silent. Mrs. Hoa stood still, her frail hands clenched. Looking at the still warm bowl of rice, her heart felt twisted, but she said nothing. She just smiled softly, picked up a spoonful of rice to eat, and whispered, "Cold rice or hot rice, that's just a matter for the kitchen, as long as our hearts are warm." Her words were as gentle as a breeze, but they silenced her daughter-in-law. That evening, Mrs. Ho reheated the pot of rice. It still had the familiar smell of wood smoke, still the fragrant, sticky white rice. Only this time, she added a smile. When she set the tray down, she gently said, "Even cold rice tastes good, if our hearts are warm." Her daughter-in-law looked at her, tears unexpectedly falling, not for the rice, but for Mrs. Ho's heart. A heart that knew acceptance, free of resentment or picking fights. It turns out, some things don't need to be argued. Just a forgiving heart is enough to melt away 1,000 angers. In life, we often suffer over very small things. An unintentional word, a cold glance, an unexplained silence can also throw our hearts into turmoil. We want everything to go our way, want everyone to understand us, want life to be filled only with favorable circumstances, but that is the root of suffering. For the more we want, the more we are bound, the harder we try to hold on, the less free we become. Knowing how to accept is understanding that life is never perfect. Just like a flower doesn't always bloom brilliantly. Sometimes, too much sun withers it. Too much rain drowns it. Yet the flower still blooms, because that is its nature. Humans are the same. No matter how life unfolds, we still need to live wholeheartedly, keep a kind heart, and embrace everything with equanimity. But acceptance doesn't mean enduring forever. If acceptance leads to self-harm, then change. Change isn't resistance. It's an act of wisdom. A person who knows how to change understands that they cannot control the world, but can adjust themselves. When others speak harshly, we can choose silence. When work is at a standstill, we can choose a different direction. When our mind is uneasy, we can take a deep breath to return to the present. Just one mindful breath can calm the heart a bit. The Buddha taught that in all phenomena, the mind is the root. To change your circumstances, change your mind. When the mind is clear, even dark circumstances become lighter. When the mind is clouded, even the most beautiful scenery feels heavy. Therefore, change here means changing how we perceive things. A problem is not inherently painful. It's only painful to us when we think about it. When we change our perspective, the pain also transforms, just as a lotus doesn't choose where it grows, but still emanates fragrance from the mud. And if you've accepted and tried to change, but still cannot, then let go. Letting go isn't running away. It's knowing how to be kind to yourself. There are relationships where clinging only causes more pain to both. There are places where staying only brings more unease. When it's time to leave, do so gently. Letting go doesn't mean hatred, but releasing the urge to cling. Just as when the sun sets, it's not gone. It's just shining on another horizon. Similarly, when we let go of something, it's not the end of a connection, but that the connection has fulfilled its purpose. A person who knows how to let go doesn't blame or regret. They just smile and say thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for teaching me a lesson about love. Thank you for helping me grow. That is true freedom. Because no one can bind a soul that knows how to let go. When you can let go, your heart is like water flowing over rocks, yet remaining clear. When we can let go, we truly experience what inner freedom feels like. In every breath, we can practice acceptance, change, or letting go. Just take a moment of mindful stillness. Close your eyes. Inhale deeply, and then exhale slowly. Feel the air moving in and out, and realize that you are fully present in this moment. No longer the past, no longer the future, just you here, breathing, living. In that moment, there is no anger, no fear, only life unfolding. A wise person doesn't wish for a life without storms, but learns how to sail through them. A person with wisdom doesn't expect others to change, but adjusts themselves to find harmony. And a person with inner freedom doesn't seek peace, because they realize peace is always available within their heart. Life is inherently like a river that cannot stand still. But if we know how to accept, how to change, how to let go at the right time, we will find ourselves flowing without losing our way. Because true happiness isn't about how much we have, but about knowing enough, knowing when to stop, knowing how to let go. Live like Mrs. Hoa, smiling at a cold meal. Because as long as the heart is warm, even cold rice becomes delicious. And when our hearts are warm, every life is beautiful. So when you feel weary, pause for a moment, breathe deeply, exhale slowly, recognizing that you are still alive, still have the opportunity to change, to love, to be at peace. Everything in life will pass. Only a peaceful mind remains. Accept to understand, change to evolve, let go to be free. When these three things are understood, the body and mind will be at ease. Life will naturally become peaceful and happy. Live contentedly, and your mind will be at peace. When the mind is at peace, all suffering becomes lighter. When the heart is full, the whole world also becomes gentler. Because ultimately, happiness isn't about searching. It's about returning. Returning to oneself, to where peace has been present since the beginning. Life is a ceaselessly flowing river. Sometimes it's calm and clear. Sometimes it rages fiercely, churning with mud and stones. There are days when the sun lays golden upon its surface, and days when blinding rain makes the river murky. Humans are the same. Our lives are sometimes a gentle melody, but at other times, a sorrowful tune. No one lives without encountering challenges. For life to be complete, it must have joy and sorrow, bitterness and sweetness. It is in this intertwining that people learn to grow, learn to keep their minds pure amidst life's many changes. Someone once asked, "How can one maintain peace amidst a stormy life?" The Buddha taught that the mind is like water. If we let the winds of life stir its surface, it will remain murky and unable to reflect the moon. But if we know how to stop and let the water settle, then even if the wind blows, the moon will still appear whole. Similarly, if we know how to look deeply within ourselves, to contemplate suffering with an understanding mind and a compassionate heart, then no matter how life changes, our hearts will remain at ease. One afternoon, heavy rain poured down. Mr. Tuan, a ride-hailing driver, was on his way with a passenger when his old motorcycle suddenly broke down in heavy traffic. Horns blared, rain lashed his face, and the passenger behind him, impatient from being late for work, began to complain. In that moment, Mr. Tuan felt all his pent-up stress, fatigue, and anger suddenly surge. He was about to react, to say a few words to defend himself, But just then, a saying from a monk he had met at a small temple years ago echoed in his mind. Everything will pass. Don't let one moment of anger cloud your entire mind. He paused, took a deep breath, letting the anger drift away with the falling rain. He looked up at the sky and smiled faintly. That smile wasn't because things had gotten better, but because he chose not to let them get worse. He turned and gently told the passenger, "Please, bear with me. My bike broke down. I'll figure out how to handle it." Amidst the torrential rain, his calm demeanor also softened the passenger. They helped him push the bike to the side of the road and waited for assistance. And in that moment, he realized that when his heart was at peace, the whole world also calmed down. The next day, Mr. Tuan took his bike for repair. The mechanic looked at the bike and shook his head, saying, "This bike is too old. You should replace it." Mr. Tuan sighed, his heart sinking, because he didn't have enough money for a new one. The old mechanic looked at him, smiling kindly. "Don't worry. I'll help you fix it for free. Yesterday, I saw you pushing your bike in the rain, and you were still smiling. I really admire that. Life needs people like you." Mr. Tuan was taken aback. He felt something profound. When we don't let anger lead the way, when we choose to remain calm in adversity, life also sends us the gentlest things. Life has its joys and sorrows, its bitterness and sweetness, but only by keeping our minds pure can we pass through it without suffering. In the hustle and bustle of modern life, people increasingly lose their inner stillness. A word of criticism, a glance, a comparison is enough to stir our minds. We forget that everything external is merely circumstantial, while suffering or joy lies in how we perceive things. The Buddha taught that all phenomena are mind-made, meaning everything arises from the mind. When our minds are pure, this world, no matter how ugly, can still be beautiful. When our minds are chaotic, even standing amidst the most beautiful scenery, our hearts remain uneasy. Therefore, spiritual practice isn't about abandoning life, but learning to live in life with a clear mind. Some people, invoking Buddhist scriptures, say they cannot keep their minds pure because life is full of challenges. But consider, if there were no wind, how would we know if a tree is strong? If there were no suffering, how would we learn to love? Just as a mirror only reflects light when it's wiped clean of dust, the human mind must also pass through suffering to find the light of peace. Maintaining a pure mind isn't avoiding reality. It's looking directly at the truth with an understanding attitude, clearly seeing that everything has its causes and conditions. Everything that happens carries a deep meaning that we only understand when the conditions are ripe. There are pains that make us fall. But looking back, we are grateful because, thanks to them, we learned how to get up. There are people who come and go, making us cry. But in the end, we understand that they came to teach us the lesson of letting go. Therefore, when suffering comes, don't rush to ask, "Why me?" But ask, "What is this here to teach me?" When the mind shifts, circumstances also shift. When we understand that suffering is part of the path of spiritual practice, we no longer fear suffering. Just as a lotus grows in mud, but isn't stained by its stench, a person who knows how to cultivate their mind will use suffering as a foundation, adverse conditions as a teacher, and ordinary life as their spiritual path. Sometimes we get tired of very small things, an unwelcome word, an unexpected action, someone who doesn't understand us. But in reality, these small things only become big when we allow them to occupy space in our minds. If we know how to pause and look at everything with a forgiving heart, we will realize that nothing is worth being angry about for too long, sad about for too long, or worried about too much. As the Buddha taught, sleep a night and let everything be in the past. For when yesterday night closes, a new day opens. Today's light cannot shine if we keep the darkness of night in our hearts. The past cannot be changed, but the present can heal. Every morning is an opportunity to renew our minds. Awakening is the path through suffering. No one can avoid all storms, but everyone can learn to navigate them with a steady mind. When we are awake, we don't let emotions control us. When we are awake, we know to pause before speaking hurtful words. We know to be silent before reacting, to smile before getting angry. Awakening is the anchor that holds the boat of the mind steady amidst the stormy sea of life, not to avoid, but to prevent us from being swept away. An awakened person knows that everything has two sides. What makes us sad today might be what makes us grateful tomorrow. What makes us suffer today is an opportunity to train our patience. If we only look with eyes of hatred, we will only see pain. But if we look with eyes of compassion, we will see that everything has a reason to happen. For no one is born to make us suffer. They are merely conditions that help us learn about ourselves. The scriptures teach that when the mind is at peace, all is at peace. When the mind is still, external circumstances no longer have the power to control it. Just like clear water, no matter who throws stones to stir it, the ripples will eventually subside. A pure mind doesn't mean no more pain, but knowing how to smile even when in pain. It means feeling sufficient even when losing, and knowing how to love back even when hurt. When we maintain such a mind, all suffering becomes light as wind. Maintaining a pure mind doesn't mean retreating into deep forests or high temples. It begins with the smallest things in this life. A gentle word instead of a harsh one, a moment of patience instead of a reaction, an act of forgiveness instead of resentment. When we sow a seed of peace today, tomorrow the flower of happiness will bloom in our hearts. The Buddha taught that the mind is the root. Circumstances are the branches. When we mend our minds, circumstances will change on their own. In every breath, we can return. Just pause. Inhale, knowing you are inhaling. Exhale, knowing you are exhaling. Each of these breaths, if maintained with mindfulness, will become the thread that pulls us out of chaotic thoughts. Every breath is a step home, back to ourselves. When the mind is home, suffering no longer has a place to reside. Someone once said that keeping a peaceful mind amidst a chaotic life is the hardest thing. But precisely because it's hard, it's worth cultivating, worth training. For anyone can smile when life is favorable. But only a wise person can maintain a smile when life is challenging. Such a person does not lament over what is gained, nor grieve over what is lost, because they understand that everything is impermanent. Impermanence is not terrifying. Impermanence is a reminder for us to live each present moment more deeply. Whenever anxiety arises in your heart, tell yourself, "Mind, be still." Like a mother comforting her crying child, comfort yourself with understanding and love. For if we don't embrace ourselves, who will do it for us? When we love ourselves, we can truly love others. When we understand our own suffering, we understand the suffering of the world. And from that, compassion will bloom, illuminating the path to peace. After that rainy day, Mr. Tuan continued his old job. But in his heart, something had changed. He no longer got angry easily as before, no longer felt sad for long over small things. He understood that every person who comes into his life is a lesson. Every incident is a test. Amidst the rides, the horns, the rain and sun, he learned to breathe deeply, smile, and whisper in his mind, "Everything will pass." That phrase was the key that unlocked peace, because in truth, nothing stays forever. Suffering passes, joy passes, gain passes, loss passes. When we understand that, we will no longer cling. When we don't cling, we are at ease. When we are at ease, we find peace. Life is short. It's not worth holding on to anger for too long. Some things that seem big turn out to be insignificant upon reflection. Some pains seem unbearable, but time eventually soothes them. Therefore, when in pain, remember that pain is just a visitor. When joyful, remember that joy is also a temporary condition. Keep your mind calm. You will see that everything is coming and going, just as it needs to. Amidst life's changes, learn to live like the moon. Even when clouds obscure it, it still shines. Even when the water is murky, it still reflects. Let your heart be like that river, knowing how to flow, to stop, to settle, to be clear. And remember, all challenges only make us understand the value of peace more clearly. When we maintain a pure mind, our body will be light, our wisdom will be bright, life will be peaceful, and all worries will dissipate. Not because life has less suffering, but because we have learned not to suffer with life anymore. That is the meaning of the two words, inner freedom, that the Buddha taught. Live that way, gently that way, in the world, yet keeping a space of peace in your heart. Smile despite life's changes. Remain serene despite human volatility. Because true happiness isn't about how life treats us, but about how we treat our own minds. Remember, when the mind is unburdened, the body becomes lighter. When the heart doesn't cling, life naturally becomes peaceful. Live contentedly, and your mind will be at peace. There is a saying from the Buddha in the Dhammapada, "He who knows contentment, even lying on the ground, finds joy. He who knows not contentment, even in heaven, finds suffering." That single statement is enough to illuminate so many hearts tirelessly seeking happiness amidst life's constant changes. For true happiness isn't found in what we hold in our hands, but in whether our minds know how to pause, appreciate, and smile at the present moment. Life is not measured by the amount of wealth, fame, or power we possess, but by the degree of peace in our minds. When the mind is at peace, a small house becomes a palace. When the mind is troubled, a palace is no different from hell. Someone once asked a Zen master, "Master, What is enough? The master replied, enough is when you no longer compare. A truly simple answer, yet it holds profound wisdom. For human suffering mostly arises from comparison. Seeing others better than us, we become dissatisfied. Seeing others worse than us, we become arrogant. Seeing ourselves not as good as others, we suffer. Seeing ourselves better than others, we fear losing what we have. Our whole lives, we're like a boat lost between the two shores of gain and loss, ultimately never reaching the harbor of peace. One morning at Ben Than Market, Mrs. Ba's familiar calls echoed amidst the bustling crowd. Hot, sticky rice here, mung bean sticky rice here, freshly cooked and sold right here, dear. Mrs. Ba is over 60 this year. Every morning, she carries her bamboo shoulder pole to the market, sells 100 portions of sticky rice, and then goes home. She smiles gently, a smile as warm as the morning sun, her eyes marked with the crow's feet of years. But in her gaze, there is an indescribable serenity, as if nothing in this world could trouble her. Nearby, Mr. Fong, a young entrepreneur, sat in a luxurious coffee shop, his face heavy with burdens. He looked at Mrs. Ba and couldn't understand why that old woman could smile so gently amidst all her hardships. He had money, a car, a company, but his heart always felt a sense of lack, lacking more success, more happiness, more true joy. One morning, with a light drizzle falling, Mr. Fong stopped by the coffee shop again and saw Mrs. Ba picking beans to prepare for the next day's sale. He approached her and asked, "Grandma, why do you get up early every day to sell? You're so tired, yet you can still smile." Mrs. Ba smiled gently and said, "Yes, dear, I smile. If I don't smile, I'll suffer more. Selling 100 portions of sticky rice is enough to cook for my grandchildren, and that makes me happy. That's enough." Mr. Fong was silent. A complex feeling suddenly arose in his heart, both ashamed and awakened. He, a man with hundreds of millions in his hands, had never felt enough, while she, with only her shoulder pole, lived each day in simple happiness. The next day, Mr. Fong returned and bought a portion of sticky rice. Mrs. Ba handed him the hot, sticky rice, her hands trembling slightly, but her eyes still bright. "This sticky rice is made from new rice. It's very fragrant, dear." He took the sticky rice, smelled its aroma spreading in the early morning rain, and suddenly felt a strange warmth. In that moment, he understood what he had overlooked for so many years. The joy of a content person doesn't come from material possessions, but from a mind that feels no lack. A content person isn't rich because they have a lot, but because they no longer crave more. The Buddha once taught that contentment is the greatest wealth, because the wealth of a content person cannot be stolen by anyone, nor can it be bestowed by anyone. It lies within that person's own mind. People who are rich because they are content don't need to boast, don't need to prove anything, don't need to be better than anyone. They live slowly, mindfully, simply. And happiness naturally finds them. A person who is not content, even with a treasure trove in hand, still feels poor because their greed is bottomless. Greed is like a bottomless well. The more you pour into it, the emptier it becomes. Only when we know how to stop, how to smile at what we have, can we hear the whispers of happiness in every breath. Happiness is actually very simple. It lies in the bowl of white rice every day, in the laughter of a child, in the caring words of a loved one. But we often keep looking for what we don't have, forgetting that we already possess a precious treasure. We forget to appreciate ordinary things. We take the sunrise for granted, disregard the cool breeze, and then go searching for happiness in distant places. And the more we search, the more lost we become. A content person sees rain as meditation, hears the wind as music. Every breath is a vivid lesson. Every step is a return. But a person who is not content, even standing amidst fragrant flowers, sees thorns. Even in a quiet place, they hear noise, because they have never truly paused to feel. One time, a disciple asked the Zen master, "Master, how can I stop feeling lacking?" The master smiled, poured him a cup of tea, and kept pouring until the tea overflowed. The disciple exclaimed, "Master, it's overflowing." The master replied, "Your mind is the same. If it's too full, how can there be room for joy? When you know when to stop, you can truly see. When you know enough, you are truly full." After many days of contemplation, Mr. Fong began to change. He learned to be grateful for every morning he woke up, grateful for every employee in his company, grateful even for the challenges that came his way. From then on, his work became lighter, no longer as demanding and competitive as before. One afternoon, he visited the market again and saw Mrs. Ba still carrying sticky rice, still smiling gently. He asked her, "Grandma, do you ever feel sad?" She said, "Of course, dear, but sadness comes and goes. I don't let it stay in my heart. When you know enough, sadness also feels light." In her simple words lay a treasure trove of wisdom. Contentment doesn't mean not having dreams or not striving. Contentment is knowing when to stop at the right time, knowing what we truly need, knowing what is most important in life. Contentment is when we still move forward, but do so mindfully, not letting desires lead the way. Contentment is when we understand that happiness isn't at the destination, but in every step, the journey. Everyone's life will pass through seasons of rain and sun, of gain and loss, of stumbles. A wise person doesn't try to gather the whole world into their hands, but learns to smile with what they have, because they understand that this life is inherently impermanent. Something is there, and then it's gone. Today may be full, tomorrow may be empty. Today may be happy, tomorrow may be sorrowful. If we rely on external things for joy, we will always be unstable. Only by turning inward can we truly stand firm amidst life's changes. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha taught that the content person is the happiest person in a world full of desires. For when the human heart no longer craves excessively, no longer compares, then all circumstances become bearable. Even in poverty, one can smile. Even in a bustling city, one can find peace. A content person is like a lotus growing in mud, yet unstained by it. They live in the world, but are not swept away by it. There were nights when Mr. Fong sat alone by the window, listening to the rain, remembering Mrs. Ba's words. When you know enough, sadness also feels light. He felt his heart settle, as if a dark cloud had just dispersed. He no longer wanted to compare, no longer tirelessly chased exhausting dreams. He just wanted to be as peaceful as the old woman selling sticky rice in the market, smiling gently amidst all the commotion. From that day on, he began to practice living slowly. He woke up early, made a cup of tea, listened to the birds sing, and told himself, "Today, I am still breathing. That is enough." Some say that living contentedly means living without greed. But in truth, knowing contentment is also living with wisdom. The wise understand that everything is impermanent. What is born must die. What is gained must be lost. If we are not content, we will forever chase after things that are not real. But if we are content, we will see flowers blooming everywhere, everything as worthy of appreciation. In everyone's life, there is a flower that blooms in its own way. Every flower is beautiful if it knows how to bloom at the right time. Don't be envious because other flowers bloom earlier. Don't be sad because your seeds sprout slowly. Trust that when conditions are right, the flower in your heart will also blossom. Contentment is waiting in serenity, without haste, without force. When we live contentedly, our hearts naturally open. We will find it easier to forgive, to empathize, to love more. Because we no longer feel lacking, we don't need to compete. Because we don't need to compete, we no longer feel anger. From then on, our hearts become light as clouds. A content person doesn't need to try to prove their worth, because they understand that true worth lies in inner peace. Therefore, the art of living contentedly is not just a philosophy. It is a healing remedy. A remedy for the ailment of never having enough. It is the illness that causes people to suffer in an age of material excess but spiritual emptiness. We can buy everything, but we cannot buy the feeling of fullness, and that can only be cultivated within oneself. If today you feel empty, try sitting still, taking a deep breath, then looking around to see what you already have. A home, however small, is still a shelter from rain and sun. A meal, however simple, is still sustenance. A smile from a loved one is still priceless. When you know contentment, every breath is joy. Every morning awakening is a gift. Mrs. Ba continued to carry her sticky rice through many seasons of rain and sun. She wasn't rich, but she was happy. Mr. Fong still worked, still lived, but his heart had changed. He learned to pause, to listen, to be grateful. Every morning, he saw Mrs. Ba smile, and he smiled back. In that smile was the serenity of two souls who knew contentment. Life is short. Greed only teaches greed until one closes their eyes, and it's still not enough. But for those who are content, just one smile is complete. Life has joys and sorrows, bitterness and sweetness. But as long as we know contentment, bitterness turns sweet, and sorrow turns to joy. Because everything manifests according to the mind. Practice living like the old woman selling sticky rice in the morning. Know when to stop when you have enough. Know how to smile when things are difficult. Be grateful when you have, and be light-hearted when you lose. When you know contentment, you will no longer be pushed around by life, no longer weary in the endless cycle of winning and losing. When you know contentment, you will see everything around you smiling back. Life may not be perfect, but a contented mind will make it complete. When the wind blows, hear its sound like music. When the rain falls, see the raindrops like scripture. When the heart is at peace, the world is also at peace. When you are content, life is also content. Live contentedly, and your mind will be at peace. For peace is a blessing, and contentment is happiness. As the evening shadow gently falls, how many times have you sighed over things that didn't go your way? Life is not always calm, like an autumn lake, but rather a series of waves, sometimes rising high, sometimes receding. Sometimes we are misunderstood, insulted, or treated unfairly. Sometimes just a harsh word, a cold glance, can make our hearts restless. We feel our hearts burn like fire, wanting only to react, to retort, to prove ourselves right. But after the anger, only fatigue, bitterness, and an unspeakable sadness remain. At that moment, we suddenly realize that the more we try to win, the more unsettled our hearts become. The more we try to justify ourselves, the further we drift from peace. Because the wiser a person is, the less they need to show off. Indeed, a truly strong person is one who knows patience. Patience may sound like enduring or putting up with things, but in Buddhism, patience is the art of one who deeply understands cause and effect. A patient person is not weak. They understand that every event happens due to causes and conditions. Everything others do to us today may simply be the result of what we sowed in the past. The more violently we react, the longer we prolong our suffering. The more we know how to pause, the more opportunity we have for transformation. It's like the wind blowing across a lake. If the lake is still rippling, the moon's reflection will be distorted. But when the water calms, the moon naturally appears clear. The human heart is the same. When we know patience, the mind returns to stillness. Wisdom shines, and we see the truth clearly. There is nothing worth getting angry about. The Buddha taught that a little patience, life becomes peaceful. The wind subsides. Stepping back, the sea is vast. The sky is high. That statement is not just advice, but a profound truth. When we are patient, we are calming ourselves to freedom. For anger is self-imprisonment. Resentment is setting oneself ablaze. The more patient one is, the wider the mind. And the wider the mind, the more suffering dissipates. The ancients saw patience as a shield protecting the mind from the arrows of hatred. Whoever wears that shield remains peaceful, even amidst life's storms. There is a small story that contains a big lesson about patience. In a small temple in central Vietnam, where pine forests whisper every evening, there lived a man named Mr. Min. He was over 60, thin, with kind eyes. Every day, he swept leaves in the courtyard, lit incense before the Buddha statue, and guarded the temple gate at night. For him, the temple was his home, the Buddha his friend, and the evening bell, the rhythm of his soul. One night, as the moon rose, a visitor rushed to knock on the temple gate, asking to worship the Buddha. But the temple was closed because, by custom, after 8 p.m., the gates were shut to maintain tranquility. Mr. Min gently said, "Please be understanding, sir. The temple is quiet now. Please return early tomorrow morning." Hearing this, the visitor became furious and shouted, "Who do you think you are to stop me from entering the temple? I've traveled far just to light an incense stick, and I can't even do that?" His words were harsh, his eyes full of annoyance. Many people in such a situation would react, would argue. But Mr. Min just smiled, his voice as gentle as the wind. "When your heart calms down, the temple gate will still be open. The angry visitor left. But those words were like seeds sown in the listener's heart. A few days later, the man returned, bowing his head in apology. Mr. Min just smiled kindly. The Buddha never closes his door to anyone. Only people close their own hearts. From that day on, the man began to visit the temple, practicing meditation and breathing, and gradually realizing that what makes us suffer is not the circumstances, but how we face them. Patience isn't passively enduring others' harm. It's the understanding not to harm oneself. When we are patient, we don't lose out. We are conquering ourselves. Conquering others is merely the power of authority. But conquering oneself is the power of the spirit. In life, everyone has experienced being misunderstood, slandered, or judged. But ask yourself, can you make everyone understand and love you? No, you can't. Because everyone sees life through their own eyes. If you constantly try to explain, constantly react to every word, you will become incredibly tired. A patient person doesn't need to prove anything, because they understand that truth does not lie in arguments, but in the stillness of the mind. Just like a lotus, even though it grows in mud, it still emits a fragrant scent. The lotus doesn't need to justify its purity. Its fragrance speaks for itself. A person with the virtue of patience is the same. They don't need to say much, don't need to show off. They just need to keep their mind pure, and life will naturally become clear and bright. Patience is the path to inner freedom. When we are angry, we are dependent on our emotions. When we are patient, we master ourselves. In the scriptures, the Buddha once taught that there is no fire as strong as hatred. Indeed, a fit of anger can burn away merits, destroy happiness, turn words into knives, and glances into arrows. But if we pause, take a deep breath, and observe that anger like a passing cloud, we will see it dissipate. Anger does not stay forever. It's only whether we hold on to it or not. Try just once. When someone hurts you, instead of reacting, be silent and breathe deeply. Look at your emotions. Acknowledge them, neither denying nor nurturing them. Tell yourself, this anger is not me. It's just a passing cloud. That is meditation in everyday life. The meditation of patience that knows how to look deeply into emotions so as not to be swept away. Each time you are patient, you are training your mind with new strength. Each time you refrain from speaking hurtful words, you are sowing a seed of peace in your heart. Life is inherently impermanent. People come and go, joys and sorrows change. Someone who hurts you today might, in fact, be the one who helps you understand compassion better tomorrow. Therefore, when we are patient, it's not just about preserving our own peace, but also about expanding our love for others. Patience is the foundation of compassion. Because only when our minds are calm do we have enough wisdom to love others. The more we love, the less angry we become. The less angry, the happier we are. Someone once asked, if everyone were patient, wouldn't the world be full of submissive people? But they forget that patience isn't silent endurance of injustice. It's acting with wisdom instead of emotion. Patient people don't ignore wrongdoing, but they choose to correct it with a calm heart, not with anger. They know that a gentle word can sometimes be more powerful than 1,000 criticisms, and a forgiving smile can sometimes change a whole person. In this hurried life, we often forget to pause and take a deep breath. We easily get angry, easily get hurt, easily cling to small things. But consider, if we knew how to be a little patient, how to let go a little, how many storms would pass gently? How many relationships would be preserved, and how much joy would return to our hearts? A little patience, life is calm, the wind is still. Taking a step back, the sea is vast, the sky is high. That's not just a teaching, but a way of life to maintain a peaceful mind in this impermanent world. Try to live slower, so that every word, every reaction originates from an awakened heart. When someone speaks harshly to you, remember Mr. Min. The temple gatekeeper did not let others' anger invade his heart, because he knew that guarding the temple gate was also guarding the gate of his mind. When the mind is closed, all peace remains outside. When the mind opens, any door becomes the Buddha's door. And then one day, when you practice patience, you will realize that the things that used to make you angry are now just like a fleeting breeze. You will feel lighthearted as a cloud because you understand that no one can make you suffer if you don't allow it. Patience is the source of inner freedom, the foundation of peace. A patient person, even amidst a turbulent life, can still smile like a lotus blooming in mud. When you are patient, you are learning to love more deeply. When you are patient, you are understanding life more. And when you are patient, you are moving closer to the path of liberation. Because in patience, there is wisdom. In patience, there is compassion. And in patience, there is freedom. So, if someone hurts you, remember that you don't need to respond with harsh words. Let silence and a forgiving smile answer for you. For a person who understands the way does not need to conquer others, but only to conquer their own angry mind. When the mind is at peace, everything is at peace. When the mind is broad enough, no storm of life can sink it. Practice patience as you practice breathing. Practice love as you practice smiling. One day, you will see that you don't need to search far for peace. It is actually within your own breath. And then, you will deeply understand the meaning of the Buddha's teaching. A little patience, life is calm, the wind is still. Stepping back, the sea is vast, the sky is high. Live contentedly, be patient, and you will find your mind naturally at peace. Perhaps in this life, everyone has sought happiness. We seek it in love, in money, in fame, in distant journeys, or in the praise of others. We think that when we achieve these things, we will find peace. But the further we go, the more tired we feel. The tighter we grasp, the more we feel a void. And sometimes, amidst seemingly perfect successes, we still feel an emptiness in our hearts, as if something is missing, though we don't know what it is. It's like someone walking through a dense forest, believing they are heading towards the light, but the further they walk, the darker the path becomes. At some point, we have to stop, sit down, and listen to the wind, the leaves, and our own inner voice. It is then that we realize happiness is not far away. It has always been here, right in every breath we have inadvertently forgotten. The Buddha once taught that true stillness is not about sitting motionless, but about knowing how to listen to all things with a peaceful mind. This seemingly simple statement is, in fact, the essence of a life-affirming philosophy. Because humans often think that to find peace, they must distance themselves from the world, abandon all noise, and seek refuge in high mountains and deep forests. But in reality, peace does not lie in the surroundings, but in the mind. Even in a bustling market, there are people who are at peace. Even in the stillness of the night, there are people who are restless. It's not that there's a problem with the outside world, but that our hearts haven't truly quieted down. Happiness cannot be found when we are constantly chasing it, because searching implies a lack. Only when we stop do we realize that everything we need is already available, just like a thirsty person running to find a lake, forgetting that they are already holding a gourd of water in their hand. Life is inherently full. It's just that the human heart isn't awakened enough to realize it. Every mindful breath is a miracle, because when we know we are breathing, we are truly living in the present. When we know we are smiling, we are fully present in this moment. No worries about tomorrow, no regrets about yesterday. It is simply, I am here, and that very moment is happiness. Someone asked, how can one find peace in this life full of worries? The answer is, don't go looking, return. Happiness isn't about having more, it's about having less. Less worry, less attachment, less comparison, less craving. When the heart is light, happiness comes naturally, just like a bird after flying through a storm needs only a clear patch of sky to find peace. The story of Ms. Mai, a woman who had experienced many days of struggle, is a beautiful testament to this. She used to be an office worker, living amidst deadlines, meetings, work calculations, and invisible pressures. All her life, she was so busy that she forgot what she once loved, what she once enjoyed. She rushed out of the house in the morning and returned home exhausted in the evening. When she retired, she thought she would be free, but ironically, her heart felt empty. No more work, no more familiar colleagues. Her days became long and tedious. There were afternoons when she sat by the window, watching the sunset, and she suddenly asked herself, what is life? How have I lived all these years? One morning, when the sky was clear and sunny, she stepped into the small garden behind her house. It had been a long time since she set foot there. Long weeds grew among the grass, and a few leftover paper flowers bloomed silently in the fence. She bent down, pulled out clumps of weeds one by one, cleared the soil, and planted a few new seeds. When her hands touched the earth, when sweat fell on her forehead, she suddenly felt something very strange. Her heart became peaceful, no longer filled with trivial thoughts, no longer comparing, no longer dwelling on unfinished tasks. Only her breath, the smell of the earth, and the sound of birds singing on the branches. From that day on, Miss May began a new habit. Every morning, she went to the garden, took a deep breath, and smiled. She whispered softly to the earth and sky, I am breathing in. I am smiling. I am living in peace. She repeated each sentence like a prayer, not asking anyone for anything, but just to remind herself. And miraculously, from deep within, she felt a gentle joy spreading. No need for anyone by her side, no need for anything grand, just a blooming flower, an early ray of sunshine, a mindful breath was enough to warm her heart. One day, an old friend came to visit and saw Ms. Mai sitting in the garden, holding a cup of tea, looking into the distance. Her friend asked, Mai, You look so different now, so peaceful, like someone who has let go of all worldly concerns." She smiled. "I haven't let go of everything. I've just learned not to cling anymore. Happiness, it turns out, isn't about how much you have, but about how much peace your heart holds." Someone hearing this story might think it's just a simple thing, but in that simplicity lies a profound awakening. When we sit still, inhaling and exhaling, feeling the breath enter and leave at the tip of our nose, we are returning to ourselves. When we truly live in each breath, each step, each bowl of rice, we are living fully in the present moment. That is meditation, not on a mountain, but in the midst of life. The Buddha once said, "The Buddha is in the mind. Any place is a temple." That statement is not just a philosophy, but the truth of happiness. If our minds are agitated, even standing in the main hall of a temple, we will feel uneasy. If our minds are clear, even in the middle of a bustling market, we can still smile. Therefore, happiness is not in a place, but in a state of mind. When the mind has peace, we see beauty everywhere. When the mind has gratitude, everything becomes a gift. Nowadays, people easily forget their own breath. We live as if constantly running, always in a hurry, always afraid of being slower than others. But the more we rush, the further we drift from the present, like someone chasing their shadow. The faster they run, the further the shadow moves away. To see the shadow, you just need to stop. To find happiness, you also just need to stop. Stop to listen to your heart, to realize that you are still alive, still breathing. And that is already a miracle. When you listen deeply, you will hear many things you never heard before. The sound of falling leaves, the chirping of birds, the laughter of a child, the sound of your own heart beating. Every sound is a miraculous Dharma lesson of life. As long as we calm our minds, the world will naturally become clear. When the mind is at peace, the external environment is also at peace. When the mind is joyful, the scenery is also beautiful. A person who understands the Dharma does not need to travel far to find happiness, because they know that every step on the ground is also a step on the path back to oneself. There are people who live in luxurious villas, who have everything, but still feel lonely in their hearts. There are people who live in small houses, with nothing but a few flower pots, a few scriptures, but they smile every day. The difference is not in the circumstances, but in whether the mind is at peace or chaotic. True happiness does not come from what we have, but from how we live with what we have. A content person will always feel rich. A person who knows when to stop will always feel peaceful. If one day you feel your heart heavy, try doing what Ms. Mai did. Step outside, take a deep breath, and tell yourself, "I am breathing in. I am smiling. I am living in peace." Repeat it slowly, deeply, until your heart calms down. Let each breath be a word of gratitude to life, for you are still alive, still able to feel, still able to love. Then you will see that you don't have to wait to have everything to feel happy, because happiness is not a destination, but a journey. Every day, every second, if we live fully, That is happiness. Each conscious breath, each gentle smile, each kind action is a flower blooming in the heart. And when our mind is a garden, happiness will naturally blossom. Life does not promise that tomorrow will be without storms, but if we have a peaceful mind, we will no longer fear the storms. Storms may come, but we will no longer be swept away, because we have learned how to breathe, how to smile, how to live in the world with a mind that is at ease. Happiness, after all, is not something grand. It is when we sit peacefully in the morning, take a deep breath in, exhale gently, and feel peace in our hearts. It is when we realize that no matter how the world turns, the moon still rises, flowers still bloom, birds still sing, and we are still here, enough to smile at life. Live contentedly, listen deeply, and know when to stop. Then, happiness will no longer be something we search for, but something naturally present in every breath. Live contentedly, and your mind will be at peace. We come to this life only to learn how to pass through it, through joys, through sorrows, through losses, and even through things we sometimes never expect. Some people who were sitting and laughing with us just yesterday have become memories today. There are memories we thought would last forever, but time flows on, carrying everything away like a quiet stream. This life, after all, is just a short journey between two infinities. No one knows if they will wake up tomorrow, if they will be able to speak a word of love, or if they will have time to embrace a loved one. When we truly understand this, when we clearly see that impermanence spares no one, we begin to truly live, to cherish every breath, every ray of sunshine, every voice, and every tiny smile in life. In ancient times, the Buddha taught that all conditioned phenomena are impermanent, meaning everything with form, everything that arises, is subject to decay. Our bodies are the same. Money, fame, relationships, all are changing every second without us realizing it. People often fear impermanence, fear loss, fear dissolution. But in truth, impermanence is not to be feared. Impermanence is the truth that helps us recognize the value of each moment. If there were no impermanence, flowers would not bloom, rain would not stop, and humans would not have the opportunity to change, to start over, to love more deeply. There is a story about Mr. Lamb, an engineer working far from home. The busy city life made him gradually forget to call his mother, forget to ask about small things. He always thought that later, when he had time, he would return and make amends. But one day, his mother suddenly passed away. The news struck him like a cold wind cutting through his chest. He returned. The house was still the same. Only one person was missing. While tidying his mother's room, he found an old photograph. In it, his mother was smiling, her smile as gentle as sunlight. He sat for a long time before that picture, his hands trembling, his eyes blurring with tears. In that moment, he understood that impermanence had touched his life. No one can hold back time. No one can wait forever for a busy child. His mother was gone, leaving him a great lesson. Life is short. Don't postpone love. From that day on, he lived slower. He was no longer rushed at work, no longer annoyed when others made mistakes. He learned to say thank you, learned to apologize, learned to be silent when necessary. Every meal, every call to his father or sister, he cherished as if it were the last. He said understanding impermanence didn't make him sadder, but made him more loving, more forgiving, and more grateful. That's right. When we understand impermanence, we stop blaming others, stop demanding that life go our way. We understand that each person is just a traveler passing by one another. When conditions align, we meet. When conditions dissipate, we part. Maintaining peace of mind amidst these changes is wisdom. Impermanence teaches us to love more. Knowing that no one lives forever, we won't hesitate to give a hug, won't shy away from expressing love. Knowing that being able to smile together today is already a blessing. We won't waste time on anger, competition, or trying to prove ourselves right. Impermanence teaches us to forgive more. Because when we look deeply, we see that everyone is suffering. Everyone is struggling within themselves. The person who made us sad today might be hurting. The person who angered us might also be learning how to love. When we understand this, we easily let go of resentment. Because resentment doesn't make us stronger. It only burdens the mind. Impermanence also teaches us to live more fully. Because we know that time doesn't wait, we won't live in perpetual regret or wait for a free day to be happy. Life promises us nothing, so every moment we breathe, hear, and see is a miracle. Someone asked, if everything is impermanent, what is real and worth holding on to? The Buddha once taught that what is worth holding on to is not form, but a peaceful mind. What is worth holding on to is love, is awakening. When our minds are clear enough, we will see that impermanence doesn't take anything from us. It only helps us shed what is unnecessary. Just as a rain washes away dust from the road, impermanence cleanses our attachments, helping us see the true nature of happiness more clearly. A flower blooms and withers, but its fragrance remains in the wind. Loved ones may depart, but the love they leave behind stays in our hearts. When we know how to see with our hearts, we will realize that nothing is truly lost. It merely transforms into another form. Water evaporates and becomes clouds. Clouds become rain. Rain returns to the earth. Life is the same, just cycles of karma and conditions, of coming and going. There are days when we feel lost, lonely, as if the whole world has turned its back on us. But if we quietly sit, listen to our breath, listen to the birds outside the window, the gentle wind through the roof, we will realize that impermanence is also a gentle teacher. It teaches us to let go of what cannot be held, to cherish what we have, and to live fully in the present moment. Imagine you are sitting by a still lake. In your hand, you hold a small pebble. You gently drop the pebble onto the surface of the lake. The water ripples, then returns to its former stillness. That is the image of a mind that lets go. When we let go of worries, regrets, and sorrows, our hearts also become as peaceful as that lake. Letting go is not giving up. It is ceasing to cling. It is ceasing to demand that life go our way, ceasing to demand that others make us happy. It is allowing everything to be as it is. Only then can our minds truly be at ease. A person who understands impermanence will not fear loss. They only fear not having loved enough, not having lived enough, not having been grateful enough. A person who understands impermanence will not lament suffering. They know that suffering, like rain, will pass and clear up. A person who lives with impermanence will always feel lighthearted. Because they understand that everything, this body, this wealth, this fame, is merely borrowed and must eventually be returned. Knowing this, we cease to compete, cease to strive, cease to resent. We simply smile, live well, live kindly, so that when we depart, we have no regrets. Life is a river. Whether we want it or not, the water still flows. Time still passes. The only thing we can do is learn to flow with it, gently, mindfully, learning to see everything with a calm eye, so that even when we encounter suffering, our hearts do not resent. And even when we encounter happiness, our hearts are not overwhelmed. Because we know that everything will pass, only a peaceful mind remains. Impermanence does not make life less beautiful, but makes it more precious. Because we know a flower will wither, we observe it more carefully. Because we know loved ones will age, we love more deeply. Because we know we will not last forever, we live more authentically from our hearts. Therefore, when we understand impermanence, we no longer fear. We only want to live each day to the fullest, to love more, to forgive sooner, and to smile at life more. Remember that we cannot control impermanence, but we can choose how we face it. If our minds are chaotic, impermanence brings suffering. If our minds are clear, impermanence is a miracle. And then one day, looking back, we will see that the losses that once brought us to tears are precisely what made us grow, made us know how to love, how to live, how to be grateful. For impermanence itself has helped us understand that life is not meant to be grasped, but to be felt, not to be possessed, but to be loved, not to be demanded, but to be given. When we can live that way, our minds naturally find peace, our hearts naturally lighten, and life naturally becomes more worth living than ever before. Let everything pass as it naturally would, and live fully in every moment. For true happiness is not in tomorrow, but in the very moment we are breathing. Live contentedly, and your mind will be at peace. In life, perhaps everyone has experienced moments of annoyance, anger, or sadness because of others. An unpleasant word, an unwelcome action, is enough to stir up our minds. Sometimes, just an unintentional remark, an indifferent glance, can weigh down our hearts all day. We keep thinking that the cause of suffering lies outside, in others, in circumstances, in things that don't go our way. But in truth, the Buddha taught very clearly about cultivating body, speech, and mind, meaning all transformation begins from within. For the root of all afflictions is not far away, but right within our own minds. Some people spend their whole lives trying to make their external lives peaceful, but forget that if the mind is not at peace, then no matter where they are, they will still feel restless. Just like a lake disturbed by the wind, no matter how beautiful the surrounding scenery, the water cannot reflect the moon. When our hearts are troubled, even beautiful scenery turns sorrowful. When our minds are at peace, even living in the midst of a bustling market, we can still find a silent flower blooming in our hearts. Cultivating the mind is not a distant endeavor. It's not just for monastics, but a path for all of us living in everyday life. Because it is in this everyday life that we have many opportunities to observe our minds, to train our patience, our compassion, our understanding, and our empathy. The Buddha once taught that all phenomena are mind-made. This seemingly simple statement contains profound wisdom. All joys and sorrows, loves and hates, gains and losses, victories and defeats, all arise from the mind. When the mind changes, the world around us also changes. Try to think about a rainy day. If our mind is sad, the rain becomes heavy and gloomy. But if our mind is at peace, the rain becomes a gentle melody, a mirror to admire the sparkling ripples. The scenery is still the scenery. Only our perception has changed. Therefore, cultivating the mind is not about changing the world, but about changing how we. Look at the world. There was a woman named Han. She was an elementary school teacher, and also the mother of Nam, an active and sometimes quite stubborn boy. Every afternoon, after coming home from work, she would be busy cooking, cleaning, and checking her son's homework. Sometimes, when she was tired, her son would spill his rice or forget to put away his toys. She would yell at him, saying things that scared him, and she would regret it later. Day after day, the distance between mother and son grew. Her son no longer told her about school, no longer clung to her, but became silent and avoided his mother's gaze. One day, while cleaning, she happened to hear a Dharma talk on YouTube. The calm, warm voice of the teacher resonated. Before you speak, breathe. Before you scold, listen. Before you react, look back at your own mind. Just a few short sentences awakened her. She suddenly realized that for so long, she had not taught her son with love, but with frustration and the habit of reacting. She remembered the Buddha's teaching: cultivate body, speech, and mind. These three are the foundation for being a good person, for living kindly, for achieving inner freedom. And among these three, cultivating the mind is the root. From that day on, whenever anger arose, Ms. Han began to practice pausing. Taking a deep breath, she told herself, breathe, don't speak hastily. When little Nam made a mistake, instead of scolding, she asked her son, do you know why Mom is sad? She learned to listen not only to her son's words, but also to the emotions hidden behind them. Sometimes, when her son was silent, she didn't force him. She just sat beside him, placed her hand on his shoulder, and breathed with him. It was truly strange. After only a few months, the atmosphere in their home completely changed. Laughter returned, along with warm hugs. Little Nam became more obedient, more self-aware, and she also felt her heart soften. Cultivating the mind is not about trying to do something grand. It starts with very small, very ordinary things. When eating, know that you are eating. When speaking, know that you are speaking. When listening, know that you are listening. That is living in mindfulness. It is meditation in daily life. No need to sit cross-legged, No need for bells and gongs. Just a mind that knows it is present in this moment. Because it is in the present moment that we can clearly see our mind, whether it is at peace, loving, or angry. The Buddha once said, "He who conquers 1,000 times 1,000 men in battle is lesser than he who conquers himself." That means the greatest victory is not conquering others, but conquering one's own mind. We can be talented, wealthy, and respected by many, but if we cannot master our mind, just one word can make us angry. Just one glance can hurt us. Conversely, when the mind is at peace, no one can make us suffer. When others speak harshly, we smile. When circumstances are difficult, we remain calm. That is the strength of a person who knows how to cultivate their mind. Cultivating the mind is knowing how to observe oneself. When angry, know that you are angry. When sad, know that you are sad. Just recognizing it. No need to deny it. Because when we clearly see the anger, it is already half weakened. Just as when we shine a lamp into darkness, darkness cannot exist. Awakening is light, and a chaotic mind is darkness. Each time we recognize our emotions, a light is lit in our hearts. Someone said, "I don't have time to practice." But in truth, practice doesn't require separate time. Practice is living mindfully in every moment. When washing dishes, know that you are washing dishes, not thinking about yesterday. When walking, feel your feet touching the ground. Listen to your breath going in and out. When talking, look directly at the other person with respect. That is practice. And when living this way, the mind naturally settles, the body naturally lightens. Cultivating the mind is also learning compassion. When we know how to love, all suffering dissolves. The person who hurt us may also be suffering. The person who angered us may also be uneasy. When we look at them with compassionate eyes, we will stop blaming, stop resenting. Because we understand that everyone is learning to navigate life in their own way. No one is perfect, including ourselves. Ms. Han recounted that since she began to listen to her son with a peaceful heart, not only did she see her son change, but she herself also felt lighter. Her teaching work became more joyful because she knew how to listen to her students, how to smile at small mistakes. That pause before speaking saved her from countless arguments, from words she would later regret. That is cultivating the mind in everyday life. When our mind is nourished by mindfulness, by love, and by understanding, life naturally softens, and things no longer feel so heavy. We stop trying to control, stop trying to prove, and simply live with gratitude. This gratitude is not only for others, but also for ourselves. Because every day we are awake, every day we know how to return to ourselves, is a precious day. Cultivating the mind is a lifelong journey. No one says it's easy, but every small step on that journey brings fruits of peace. When we listen more, speak less, love more broadly, we are already cultivating. When we know how to stop before anger, we are already cultivating. When we see our own faults instead of others' faults, we are already cultivating. No need to wait for a temple. No need to wait for free time. Just in this very moment, if we return to ourselves, that is cultivation. A A person who knows how to cultivate their mind is someone who can stand amidst storms, yet their heart remains unshaken. Because they know that waves only rise when the wind blows, and that wind is the illusory thoughts in the mind. When the mind is calm, the waves naturally subside. When the mind is clear, life naturally becomes beautiful. And when we live in that clarity, we are no longer pulled away by external circumstances, but are at ease in every breath. Remember that cultivating the mind not only brings us peace, but also radiates peaceful energy to those around us. A mother who knows how to listen will raise a child who knows how to love. A teacher who knows patience will sow good seeds in the hearts of students. A person who knows how to cultivate their mind will make this life gentler, brighter. Cultivating the mind is the source of all peace. For when the mind is at peace, the body will be at peace. When the mind is clear, life will be clear. When the mind knows contentment, all things are sufficient. And when we know how to live with that clear mind, life is no longer a series of days to endure, but a journey of love and awakening. Cultivate your mind every day to achieve inner freedom, so that life may be truly peaceful and happy. There are mornings when we rush through life so quickly that we forget a glance or a smile or a caring word. We keep thinking that we must have a lot, be truly complete before we can give. But we don't realize that sometimes just a nod, a gentle word of comfort, or a small bowl of porridge on a cold morning is enough to warm a lonely soul on a street corner. Life is inherently short, but the human heart can be infinitely vast. When we know how to open our hearts, when we know how to give, we touch what the Buddha called inner peace. Happiness does not come from receiving, but from the very act of letting go, from compassion, and from a sharing heart. The Buddha taught that when we give, we are receiving. This seemingly simple statement conceals a profound truth. In the world of cause and effect, nothing is lost. Every action, no matter how small, leaves its mark in the stream of karma and conditions. When we give a smile, a gentle word, or a small bowl of rice, we are sowing seeds of happiness in our own hearts. These seeds will sprout, will grow. And then one day, in an unexpected moment, we will receive beautiful things from the very garden of our hearts that we once tended. Mr. Hai, a simple man working as a security guard in Bin Duong, is a testament to this. Every morning, as everyone rushed to work, he maintained a small habit. He bought an extra bowl of porridge, not for himself, but for the old woman who begged at the end of the alley. She was old, with white hair, dim eyes, her body trembling in an old coat. Every day, he would place the bowl of porridge beside her, nod, and say little. She would just smile softly, her kind eyes seeming to thank the whole world. Time passed. Mornings followed one another like a virtuous cycle of habit, until one day the old woman was no longer there. Mr. Hai asked around and learned that she had passed away a few days earlier. On the day of her memorial, in a small bag, people found a crumpled piece of paper inside, which was written, "My children and grandchildren, if anyone reads this, please thank the man who brought me porridge every morning." thanks to his porridge, I saw that there are still good people in this world." Mr. Hai held the paper, stunned. He had never thought his small act could move someone so deeply. Tears fell, not of sorrow, but of awakening. From that day on, he continued to buy porridge, but no longer placed it for anyone specific. He left it in a corner of the park, where poor laborers could take it when needed. He realized that giving doesn't require a specific recipient, because blessings always find the right place to go. And in his heart, there was a strange warmth, a peace that no material thing could buy. The Buddha taught that all we receive today is the result of what we sowed before. When we deeply understand the teaching, we no longer fear disadvantage, because in the stream of cause and effect, nothing is meaningless. A good deed, even as small as a grain of sand, can create ripples that spread far. Goodness is not lost. It only waits for the right conditions to return. And the miracle is that when we give with a pure heart, our minds are purified, lighter, broader, more peaceful. Some people say they have given a lot, but received nothing in return. They become disappointed and withdraw, thinking that kindness is worthless in this day and age. But in reality, it's because they don't understand that giving with expectation is not truly giving. Blessings don't arise from external actions, but from the inner mind. A person who gives much wealth, but whose heart is still proud and calculating, will have blessings that are like a fire that flares up and then dies out. But a poor person who only has a single sweet potato, yet knows how to share, the light of that compassionate heart will spread forever. The Buddha once told a story about a poor woman who had only one coin. When she heard that the Buddha was on alms rounds, she immediately offered her only coin. Others scoffed, saying she was poor, yet still giving alms. But the Buddha smiled and said, "She has given all she has. Her heart is immeasurable." It is that mind, the mind of giving without calculation, that is the source of merit. For giving is not losing, but letting go of clinging in the heart. We live in the world, often tirelessly accumulating, fearing loss, fearing scarcity, fearing others are better than us. But the more we accumulate, the more tired we feel. The more we hold on, the more anxious we become. Because when the mind still clings, the heart cannot be at peace. Giving is a way to unlock ourselves. When the hand opens, the heart also opens. When we let go of selfishness, our minds become light as a breeze. If you pay attention, you will see that people who know how to give often have more peaceful expressions. They do not suffer over winning or losing, nor are they hurried by wanting more, because in their hearts, joy comes immediately. When they bestow kindness, they understand that life is like a mirror. When we smile, the mirror smiles back. When we give love, love finds its way back. And that return may not be in material form, but in the peace in every breath, in peaceful sleep without worries, in the joy of seeing others happy. Giving is also a form of practice. Practice is not just chanting scriptures, bowing to the Buddha, or staying in a temple, but practicing mindfulness in daily life. When we help others without needing them to know, when we give without expecting anything in return, when we quietly do good amidst the noise, that is meditation. That is when body and mind unite in a mindful action. A person who knows how to give is never poor because they always live in the flow of love. A person who only knows how to receive but not to give will always feel a lack, even with a treasure trove of wealth. Because true lack is not in the wallet, but in a closed heart. A person rich in compassion may only have one bowl of rice, but they have the joy of sharing. A selfish person may have a vault full of gold, but they live in loneliness and fear. Someone asked, "How can I start learning to give?" The answer is very simple. Start with the smallest things you have. A sincere thank you, a smile to a stranger, a glass of water offered to someone, giving up your seat to an elderly person. When we do these things with a joyful heart, we are practicing. And when we practice in every small action, we will realize the miracle. Giving is also receiving. In Buddhism, there's the concept of sympathetic joy, which means rejoicing in the good deeds of others. When we see someone doing good, we develop a joyful mind, without envy or criticism. That's also a way of giving positive energy into this world. Because whatever energy we sow, that energy will return to us. A Zen master once said that giving is not losing, but spreading a part of our light to illuminate the surrounding darkness. When we are a small candle, we can light thousands of others without our own flame diminishing. On the contrary, that light becomes even brighter by being augmented by other lights. Think about it. If each of us knew how to give a little love, how much suffering would be lessened in this world? If everyone knew how to pause for a second to listen to others, many hearts would be healed. If everyone knew how to speak gentle words instead of hurtful ones, how many families would be warmer? When we give kindness, we are sending a prayer for ourselves. When we help others overcome suffering, we are also helping our own minds be freed from selfishness. The more we know how to give, the more we know contentment. The more we know contentment, the more at peace we feel. One morning, as the sun rose, Mr. Hai looked at the bowl of porridge in his hand and smiled softly. He remembered the old woman from years ago, remembered the writing in the old letter, and he didn't feel sad, but felt light in his heart. He softly chanted, "Namo Amitabha Buddha. Please grant me the wisdom to give without calculation." This chant was not just a prayer, but a promise to himself to live a simple life, to know love, to share, so that his mind could be at ease. Happiness is not far away. It lies in how we live each day. A hug, a word of encouragement, a little time spent listening to loved ones is also giving. When we know how to give with a full heart, we are dissolving our own karma, sowing seeds of blessings for the future. And when we give without expecting anything in return, our minds become light as clouds, clear as water. At that point, the body is at peace, the mind is at peace, life is at peace. Giving is not just an action, but a way of life, a path that leads us to tranquility. Because as the Buddha taught, the person who knows how to give is the one who has found the treasure within their own heart. Live like the gentle moonlight, illuminating without needing anyone to know. Give like the endlessly flowing river, asking for nothing in return. For only when we know how to give unconditionally can our minds truly be free. And in that freedom, we find the deepest happiness, the happiness of peace, of a contented mind, and a loving heart. As that morning closed, Mr. Hai bowed his head, recited the Buddha's name, and smiled gently. In the simplicity of daily life, he had found the deepest truth. To give is to live. And when we know how to give, we are also learning to love, learning to let go, learning to return to ourselves, to a place of eternal peace that nothing can disturb. Live contentedly, give with all your heart. Then one day, you will realize that peace is not far away, but blooming right within your own mind. In this life, there are times when we wonder why good people suffer, while evil ones live comfortably. Many people see injustice and sigh, then complain about life, blaming fate for being unfair. But the Buddha's teachings still resonate amidst all the changes. Good karma, or bad karma, causes people to be born into different circumstances. This statement may seem like just an explanation, but it is actually a reminder for us to look deeply into cause and effect, so as not to blame life or resent others, but to turn inward and examine ourselves. The Buddha said that all suffering, happiness, success, and failure are not accidental. All are guided by causes, conditions, and karmic forces. But it is not destiny. Karma does not bind us forever. Karma is merely the result of the seeds we sowed in the past. And the present is an opportunity for us to sow new seeds. When we understand this, we no longer fear karma, but know how to transform it. No longer blame fate, but learn to recognize, learn to let go, and learn to do good to dissolve it. In a rural area of the Mekong Delta, there lived a woman named Mrs. Tu. Her life was simple, like many other farmers. She went to the fields in the morning and returned home in the evening, eating plain meals, but always with a gentle smile. Her neighbors all loved her for her peaceful and kind nature. She had never offended anyone. But next door to her lived Mr. Phuc, a man known for being grumpy, rude, and often cursing. Whether it was a big or small matter in the neighborhood, he would find a way to yell, scold, and even instigate arguments. Many people were angry. Some avoided him. Some reacted. But only Mrs. Tu remained calm. One time, while Mrs. Tu was sweeping her yard, Mr. Phuc walked by and grumbled, "What kind of sweeping is that? You're blowing trash into my yard. What kind of work is this?" Mrs. Tu smiled and gently said, "Oh, the wind blew it. I didn't mean to. Let me sweep it for you again." Mr. Phuc got angry, swore a few more harsh words, and left. The neighbors who saw this were all annoyed on her behalf. They said, "Why are you so gentle? People always take advantage of you." But she just smiled and whispered, "I cultivate my mind. I don't get angry. People suffer in their minds. That's why they're short-tempered. If I get angry too, I'll suffer just like them." That evening, when everyone else was asleep, Mrs. Tu sat by the small Buddha altar in her simple house, lit incense, clasped her hands, and chanted, "Namo Amitabha Buddha. I dedicate today's merits to Mr. Phuc. May he find peace and lightness of mind." Every night she chanted like that, asking for nothing for herself, only wishing others less suffering. A year passed, and Mr. Phuc suddenly fell ill. The terrible disease quickly weakened him. Relatives visited less, and friends gradually distanced themselves. One afternoon, As a fever tormented him, he looked out the door and saw Mrs. Tu standing there, holding a packet of herbs. She softly said, "I have some traditional herbs. I heard they help reduce fever. You can try them." Mr. Fuck said nothing, just looked at her, his eyes brimming with tears. In the following days, Mrs. Tu continued to visit, helping to cook porridge, prepare medicine, and tidy the house. That benevolent heart, that gentle nature devoid of resentment, gradually melted away the hardness in his heart. One day, he held her hand and whispered, "I apologize. I lived wrong for so long. Thanks to you, I understand that harming others is also harming myself." When recounting this story, Mrs. Tu simply said, "Karma comes not to punish, but to teach us to love more." That saying sounds simple, but is the essence of the Dharma. For if karma were merely punishment, this life would be full of suffering. But if karma is a lesson, an opportunity for us to awaken, then each time we suffer is a chance to learn how to love, how to be patient, how to understand ourselves and others better. The Buddha taught that karma can be transformed, but it must be done with a good heart and good actions. Just as muddy water can settle and become clear if we leave it still, the human mind is the same. When we stop blaming, stop being angry, the mind begins to clarify. When the mind is clear, good actions naturally arise. And when good actions arise, bad karma gradually dissipates. In Buddhism, there are 3 types of karma: bodily karma, verbal karma, and mental karma. These 3 are closely interconnected. If we do good deeds, but still hold anger in our hearts, that goodness is not complete. If we speak kind words, but still have selfish calculations in our minds, those words are still tainted by worldly dust. Only when body, speech, and mind are all pure can karma truly be transformed. Many people ask, "I do so many good deeds, yet I still suffer. Is karma real?" The Buddha taught that karma is not mistaken, but the results do not always appear immediately. Some seeds sown today will blossom later, and some seeds have to wait until another lifetime to bear fruit, when the conditions are ripe. The important thing is not to lose faith in doing good just because we haven't seen the results yet. It's like a farmer who plants a seed today. If they get discouraged because they don't see a sprout right away, how can the tree grow? Karma is the same. Transformation requires time, patience, faith, and a good heart. If we understand this, we will stop blaming life. Stop asking why others are happier than us. Stop thinking that we are more unfortunate than anyone else. Because everyone has their own karma, their own lessons to learn in this lifetime. Some are born into wealth, but lack love. Some are poor, but receive genuine love. Each person is paying and receiving different debts. No one is entirely lucky, and no one suffers forever. The Buddha said, "If you want to know where you came from in this life, look at how you are living now. If you want to know where you will go in the next life, look at how you are living today." This saying helps us awaken. Instead of complaining, sow good seeds in every word, every action, every thought. When we act kindly with a pure heart, we are resolving our own karma. The strength of karma, whether strong or weak, is not determined by the past, but by the present mind. If our minds are full of hatred, we fuel bad karma. If our minds are full of compassion, we dissolve that karma little by little. It's like a pot of water with poison. If we continuously pour pure water into it, the poison will gradually dilute, and the water will become clean. Similarly, when we continuously practice good deeds, speak kind words, think kind thoughts, old bad karma will gradually dissolve. Everyone in this life has karma. No one is completely free of karma. But the important thing is how we choose to live amidst that stream of karma. Do we let karma sweep us away, or do we learn to see through it, learn to master it? A person who understands the Dharma is not someone who doesn't experience suffering, but someone who, when suffering comes, still smiles, still keeps their heart peaceful. They understand that suffering is also a teacher, and karma is also a good condition for self-improvement. Like Mrs. Tu, if she had resented, she probably would have lived her whole life in bitterness. But because she understood karma, understood cause and effect, she chose to forgive. She understood that when someone hurts her, it's because they are suffering. When someone gets angry, it's because their heart has not yet been illuminated. So instead of reacting, she dedicated merits. She loved. And that very love transformed a whole person, turned resentment into gratitude, and lightened karma. If we can learn that in life, then no matter what happens, we will no longer be drowned in suffering. We will know how to pause, how to observe, how to ask our hearts, what is this lesson teaching me? Then, suffering is no longer suffering, but an opportunity for us to become greater, deeper, kinder. Some say that karma is a binding rope, but in truth, karma is also wings if we know how to use it to fly. For thanks to karma, we have the opportunity to learn, to practice, to understand ourselves. When we no longer run from karma, we will see that karma is not frightening. What is most frightening is not understanding it. Most frightening is resenting it and letting our minds be drowned in that resentment. The Buddha taught that a wise person does not fear karma, only fears that their mind is not kind. A kind mind is a lamp that illuminates the path through the darkness of ignorance. When we light that lamp, we will clearly see the way, clearly see that everything we experience, whether joyful or sad, is an opportunity for us to return to our clear, original minds, to the compassion that is inherently within us. Therefore, when encountering suffering, don't ask, "Why me?" but ask, "What have I learned?" When hurt by others, don't rush to blame. See if you have ever done anything to cause them suffering. When you see others happy, don't envy. Rejoice, for that is the merit they have sown. And if you feel you don't have enough, remember that blessings come at the right time, in the right way, with the right conditions. There is very heavy karma, but if we know how to repent and live virtuously, that karma can be resolved. Repentance is not regret, but awakening. When we see our mistakes and vow not to repeat them, that is when old karma stops being sown, and new, good seeds begin. When we understand cause and effect, we no longer blame fate, for we know that life is not unfair. Everything is happening exactly as it needs to for us to learn, to understand, to love more. And when we truly understand this, our hearts become light as clouds floating in the autumn sky, no longer clinging, no longer resentful, only peace remains. Karma comes not to punish, but to teach us to trust. When we understand this, suffering also becomes a teacher, and adversity turns into a good condition. And each day that passes, we live more kindly, listen more deeply, love others more. Then, one morning, when we see the sunlight falling on the roof, we will gently smile. Everything is as it should be, because when our minds are clear, even if karma comes, it is light as a passing breeze. When our minds are at peace, life, even with its changes, can no longer shake us. Sow good deeds in every breath. When the mind is good, karma will transform. When cause and effect are understood, the heart will be at peace. And in that peace, we find true happiness. The happiness of one who has learned not to blame fate, but only to love life and love oneself more. There's a paradox in modern life. People have more conveniences, but less happiness. Taller houses, but shallower hearts. More material possessions, but less inner peace. They rush into life like moths to a flame, constantly busy, accumulating, comparing, competing with others, only to look back and find emptiness in their hearts. We think we need to have a lot to be happy, but the more we accumulate and worry, the further peace drifts away. Someone once said that a wise person knows how to simplify complex things. Indeed, while many strive to conquer the whole world, a wise person only needs to conquer their own mind. When our mind is simple, everything around us becomes more pleasant. Like still water, even if it reflects countless images, the heart of the water remains calm. Perhaps each of us has felt tired of having to strain ourselves to please others. We want to be acknowledged, praised, to win, to prove ourselves. But the more we try to prove ourselves, the emptier we feel. Because the more we try to show off, the further we drift from ourselves. But when we are calm enough to smile at praise or criticism, at gain or loss, that's when we touch inner freedom. The Buddha once taught that the one who knows when to stop is the one who knows how to live. Stopping doesn't mean being lazy or giving up. It means knowing how to look back into one's own heart to see what is truly necessary and what is merely an illusion. A person can live in a small house, eat simple meals, but if their heart is filled with peace and gratitude, that life is still heaven. Mr. Bin, an old carpenter in Hoi An, is a testament to this. He lives in a small house by the river, where the wind blows through the areca palms and birds call to each other every morning. He only makes a few tables and chairs each month, spending most of his time planting flowers, reading scriptures, and drinking tea. People in the village often ask him, "You're so skilled. Why don't you open a bigger workshop and earn more money?" He just smiles gently. "I just need enough to live, enough to smile, and time is for living, not for wasting." That answer sounds simple, but it is the culmination of a lifetime of contemplation. He doesn't need to prove his worth with money or status. For him, being able to breathe in peace, to watch flowers bloom, to hear the wind through the leaves, is already happiness. Many visitors look at his easygoing life and feel envious, because in his eyes, there is no worry, no ambition, only a serene and tranquil presence. Living simply doesn't mean lacking. It means not letting oneself be bound by unnecessary desires. Some wear silk clothes and feel cold because their hearts are never satisfied. Some wear only coarse cotton and still feel warm because they have a peaceful mind. Simplicity is knowing what is worth holding on to and what should be let go. It's knowing not to be swept away by the waves of fame and fortune, but to stand on the shore, watching the water flow by with a serene smile. In Buddhist teachings, all suffering originates from greed, anger, and ignorance. When we crave too much, we become weary. When we are angry, we lose our peace. When we are ignorant, we lose our way. And the cure for all three of these ailments is simplicity in the heart. When we don't want too much, we no longer tire ourselves out over loss. When we know how to smile at things that don't go our way, we no longer suffer from anger. When we look at life with clear eyes, we see that everything is worth cherishing. Living simply is learning to speak less, get angry less, desire less, and increase love, mindfulness, and gratitude. Just spend a few moments of quiet contemplation each day to sit still. Listen to your breath. Watch a flower bloom. Listen to the birds, the wind, and you will realize that this life is inherently beautiful. That beauty is not found in distant places, but in every moment we are living. Someone asked, "How can the mind be at peace when life around us is still full of chaos?" The answer is to simplify everything. Don't try to control others. Just control yourself. Don't try to find perfection. Just live authentically, with a good heart. Don't keep thinking about what you don't have. Cherish what you do have. Because gratitude itself is the key that opens all doors to happiness. In the late afternoons, Mr. Bin usually sat on his porch, pouring a cup of hot tea, watching the sunset fall upon the river. He said, "When I was young, I used to think I needed to have a lot to be enough. But the more I lived, the more I realized that as long as my heart doesn't feel lacking, that's enough." Sometimes happiness is just sitting still, not competing, not striving to win or lose, not needing to prove anything, just being able to live true to myself. That is already a great gift that life bestows. In today's world, we often get caught in the whirlwind of material possessions and fame, but remember that those things are temporary, while the most precious thing is inner peace. A simple soul will not be entangled, will not be swept away by the wind. When the mind is at peace, even if there are storms outside, we still feel steady. Living simply doesn't mean rejecting the world, but living in the world without letting the world control you. Just like a lotus that grows from mud, yet remains pure. A person who lives simply still lives in ordinary life, but maintains a clear heart. That is the art of living for a wise person. The Buddha taught that a wise person does not seek happiness in distant places, but finds it in the present moment. When we know how to appreciate a simple meal, how to smile with loved ones, how to be grateful for help, then every day lived becomes a day of peace. There is a very good saying, "When the mind is simple, the world becomes pleasant." When we don't set too many expectations, we feel less disappointment. When we don't hold on to too much, our hands become lighter. When we let go of unnecessary things, our hearts become lighter. And when our hearts open wide, happiness naturally finds its way to us. Try to look back at your own life. How many times have you suffered over small things, been angry over a word, worried about something that hasn't happened yet, or grieved over someone who didn't remember you? But if at that moment you had known how to stop, how to smile, how to tell yourself that everything will pass, then perhaps your heart would not have so many scars. Living simply is the art of loving. Because only when we live simply do we have enough space in our hearts to truly receive love. Complicated people are often lonely because their minds are burdened by calculations and doubts. But simple people are at ease because they know how to trust, how to give, how to smile. Some say living like Mr. Bin is easy because he doesn't have to worry about food and clothing. But no, he was once poor, once struggled. He just chose to look at life through different eyes. He once said, "When I see a rich person, I don't envy them. When I see a poor person, I don't despise them. I just know that they too are living within their own karma and blessings. I just need to keep my mind good. And that's enough." That is the wisdom of one who has deeply understood the Buddha's teachings. A person who lives simply will not be boastful from praise, nor saddened by criticism. They understand that everything is impermanent, coming and going, like a passing breeze. They know that every moment of the present is precious, so they live fully in this moment. Life is inherently short. We can carry nothing with us except good karma and a peaceful mind. So instead of chasing after fleeting things, sow good seeds in your heart. Practice living simply, gratefully, and lovingly. Learn to stop and watch a leaf fall, to hear birds sing, to see that life is still gentle, even when there are storms. When the mind is simple, we don't need too many reasons to be happy. A cup of morning tea, a gentle smile, a sincere thank you are enough to lighten the heart. Because happiness is not in grand things, but in how we perceive small things. Living simply is the art of returning to oneself, to realize that we are inherently enough, not by having more, but by letting go. Less desire, less anger, less fear. Then our bodies become light, our minds become clear, and our lives naturally become peaceful. Slow down a little to smell the flowers, to see that the morning sun is enough to warm the heart. Live a little deeper to understand yourself and empathize with others. Live a little more sufficiently to know that just a peaceful mind makes life peaceful. And if one day you feel weary amidst this chaotic life, remember the Buddha's teaching. To know enough is wealth. To know when to stop is peace. To let go is happiness. When we live simply, our hearts are at ease, and life immediately becomes peaceful, like a gentle and profound, calm and warm piece of good music. There are pains we thought we had forgotten, but with just a gentle breeze, an old song, or a familiar place, the heart aches again, as if it were yesterday. There are things we thought we had overcome, but in truth, we only buried them deep in our minds. So every time night falls, when all sounds outside quiet down, and only we face ourselves, that pain returns, lingering and softly throbbing. Everyone in life has had things they wanted to let go of, but didn't know how. We keep holding on, tormenting ourselves, waiting, and in the end, we inflict suffering upon ourselves. Ms. Lan, an accountant at a small company in Hoi An, was once like this. Her life was simple, going to work in the morning, returning home in the evening, cooking a meal for herself, sometimes putting on an old song and sitting quietly, listening to the rain outside the porch, until the man she loved for 5 years left without explanation. She was in pain, so much so that she no longer wanted to get out of bed each morning. Everything around her seemed covered in a hazy mist. She still lived, still went to work, still smiled when needed. But her heart was completely empty. Every night, Ms. Lan would lie awake, repeatedly asking why he left, why her love wasn't enough. She searched for answers in old messages, in every memory, in every recollection. But the more she searched, the more lost she became. One day, she found a small temple on the outskirts of town. Amidst the ringing bells, amidst the faint scent of incense, she sat down before the head nun, tears welling up, and said, "I've tried to forget, but I can't. I hurt so much. I just want to sleep forever and not wake up." The nun looked at her, smiled gently, and said, "No one can carry your pain for you, but you can put it down." That statement was simple, but it was like a ray of light piercing through the darkness in Miss Lan's soul. Putting it down sounds easy, but it is the hardest thing in a person's life. We are used to holding on, used to clinging tightly to everything we once had, whether it's happiness or suffering, because we fear that letting go will mean losing. We fear that letting go means forgetting someone who was once important. We fear that if the pain stops, that love will no longer have meaning. But in truth, letting go is not forgetting. Letting go is ceasing to hurt ourselves over what has passed. In Buddhist teachings, letting go is a part of wisdom. The Buddha taught that everything in life is impermanent. What is born will surely die. What unites will surely separate. Nothing is forever. No one can hold on to everything in their hands. The harder you try to grasp, the more it hurts. It's like clenching your fist. The tighter you squeeze, the more tired you become. But when you relax, your hand feels light again. The human mind is the same. When it knows how to let go, the mind is at ease. When it still clings, the mind suffers. Letting go is not weakness, but a great strength. It's when you are brave enough to face reality, calm enough to look at what has passed, and accept that everything is just due to conditions. When conditions align, we meet. When conditions dissipate, we part. No one owes anyone anything. It's just that the karmic connection in this life has completed its course. When we understand that, we feel light in our hearts, like someone walking across a bridge, no longer needing to carry heavy stones on their shoulders. We carry only a smile, a word of thanks, and keep moving forward. Letting go doesn't mean erasing the past, but looking back at it with peaceful eyes. It's when remembering, we no longer feel pain. It's when thinking of an ex-partner, we send them a kind wish and then return to taking care of ourselves. Letting go is saving yourself from the suffering of attachment. Another time, when Ms. Lan asked the nun, "But I don't know how to let go. I tell myself every day to forget, but my heart still aches." The nun just smiled and gently said, "You don't need to forget. You just need to stop fighting the pain. Sit down, breathe, and let it pass." And so, Ms. Lan began to practice letting go meditation. Every morning, she sat still in her small room, closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and then slowly exhaled. She imagined she was placing a heavy stone by the side of the road, and each breath was a release of a little more sadness from her heart. Sometimes tears fell, but she didn't try to wipe them away. She let them flow as a way to cleanse her soul. Every day, she whispered in her mind, "I'm letting go now." As time passed, she gradually felt her heart lighten. A smile returned to her lips, and her steps became freer. She no longer blamed him, nor did she blame herself. She understood that if there were no suffering, how would she know to cherish peace? If there were no separation, how would she know to appreciate those who are still by her side? Letting go is not just about a person, but also about the expectations, resentments, and disappointments we carry in life. Sometimes we suffer not because of others, but because we ourselves refuse to relax. We want everything to go our way. We cling to what has gone wrong. We want to be understood, to be loved, to be recognized. But the Buddha taught that suffering is not in what we lose, but in our refusal to accept that loss. When the mind is at peace, suffering dissipates. Imagine life as a river. Everything is flowing. If we try to grasp the water, we only find it slipping through our hands. But if we know how to sit peacefully by the bank and watch the river flow, we find it beautiful. Letting go is awakening. It is stopping the chase of the current and simply watching quietly, then smiling. Many ask, "Will I be happy after letting go?" The answer is yes, but it's not a noisy joy. It's a quiet peace. It's when you no longer have to struggle with the past, no longer fear the future, but live fully in the present. When the mind is simple, the world becomes pleasant. When the heart is light, everything becomes easy to breathe. In each of us, there are things that need to be let go of. It could be a person, a relationship, a dream that is no more, or just a small fear in our hearts. Look back and see if there is anything you are holding on to too tightly. Is there anything that makes you tired, but you can't bear to release? Try, just once, to sit still, breathe, and softly tell yourself, "I'm letting go now. No need to forget, just peace." When we learn how to let go, we truly understand what freedom is. Not external freedom, but inner freedom. No longer bound by the past, no longer fearing what is to come. The mind is like white clouds in the sky, floating away without clinging, drifting gently without leaving a trace. Letting go is also an art of living. It is not running away, but returning. Returning to oneself, returning to the breath, returning to the present. Because happiness is not in how much you have, but in how much lightness you carry. When your heart is no longer pulled by the past or worried by the future, this very moment is already heaven. After months of practicing letting go meditation, Ms. Lan wrote a line in her small notebook. "I no longer wish for him to come back. I only wish for my heart to always be at peace. That is a sign of maturity, not when you have everything, but when you lose everything and still smile. Today, if your heart still feels heavy, if there is anything that makes you uneasy, try to pause. Take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and imagine you are setting all your burdens down by the side of the road. Life is inherently short. Don't let suffering occupy all the space in your heart. Make room for love, for gratitude, for serenity. Because ultimately, happiness doesn't come from how much you hold on to, but from how much you let go of. Let go to feel your heart expand, so that light can enter. Let go to realize that peace has been within you all along, but you embraced too much and couldn't see it. And when you truly know how to let go, you will understand the Buddha's teaching. All suffering arises from clinging. All peace comes from letting go. Gently let go of what is no more, because only when the heart is empty can light enter. Letting go is the beginning of happiness, the door to freedom, the path back to oneself. There are mornings when we wake up to a day full of gray clouds, our hearts heavy with unresolved worries. Life can sometimes be like a sudden rain shower in the midday sun. No one is prepared. No one knows how long it will last. Some people lose heart after one failure. Some are hurt by a single word. Some feel their whole world collapsing after a loss. It seems everyone carries their own internal storms, their own rains, and their own hidden scars. But amidst all these turbulences, there is a lesson the Buddha taught. No one can make us suffer if we don't allow it. This seemingly simple statement is the essence of awakened wisdom. Because suffering or joy does not lie in circumstances, but in the mind. Life always has adversity, and the wind will still blow, the rain will still fall, people will still leave. But if our minds are steadfast, we can still smile, just like a flower in a deep forest, unseen by anyone, yet still blooming. Just like the moon, whether people are sad or happy, the moon remains full and bright. In the Dong Thap region, there lives a farmer named Uncle Hao, affectionately called by the villagers the lotus grower in the muddy field. Uncle Hao is over 60 years old, his skin tanned by the sun, his hands calloused from the elements. Every year, when the flood season arrives, his lotus fields are almost completely washed away. Some years, the water rises so high, it submerges even the small hut where he rests at noon. The villagers, seeing this, all advised him to abandon his profession and switch to growing rice for a more stable income. But he just smiled gently and said, "Lotus blooms in mud, and so do people. To smile despite suffering is to have overcome karma." His words made many people ponder. In the eyes of worldly people, Uncle Hao was a poor man, struggling year-round, with little profit. But for him, every blooming lotus was a joy. Every morning, before the sun even rose, he would wade into the fields, his feet submerged in mud, sweat soaking his clothes, yet his eyes shone with an unusual brightness. He said that when he saw the lotus pushing up through the mud, yet remaining pure, he learned its way of life. No resentment towards the mud, no fear of the mud, just quietly growing. And when the time came, it blossomed. In Buddhist teachings, the lotus is a symbol of purity amidst impermanence. The lotus grows in mud, but is not tainted by its smell. Humans are the same. Amidst a life full of afflictions, if one can maintain a pure mind and a good heart, then no matter where they are, they will radiate the fragrance of peace. Life cannot avoid all suffering, but we can learn to walk through it with a smile, with a liberated soul. Someone asked, how can one be serene when suffering still surrounds them? How can one smile when the heart is full of wounds? The answer lies in awakening. When we know that suffering is a part of life, we no longer resist it. When we understand that everything will pass, we no longer cling. It is at the moment of acceptance that we are set free. For the wind doesn't cause anyone suffering. Only those who don't know how to keep their minds steady feel suffering. In the years that followed, Uncle Hao continued to grow lotuses. Sometimes, when his fields were completely lost, he still smiled. Someone asked, "Don't you regret all your hard work?" He replied, "I grow lotuses, not just to sell them, but to learn how to live. The lotus blooms for life, and it's also for me to learn how to let go." Uncle Hao said, "Every time the lotuses were swept away by the water, I just thought, next year I'll plant again. Who knows? Maybe they'll bloom even more beautifully. If people could learn from the lotus, nothing would make us fall." Life is inherently like a river, with calm stretches and raging rapids. If we constantly wish for the river to remain calm, we will only be disappointed. But if we know how to swim, how to go with the flow, then even big waves are just part of the journey. Living serenely is like that. It's not about avoiding storms, but about learning to stand firm amidst them. The Buddha once taught that when the mind is at peace, the world is at peace. When our minds are tranquil, our surroundings automatically transform. Some people live in palaces, yet suffer, while others, in thatched huts, find happiness. For suffering doesn't come from poverty or wealth, but from greed and clinging. When we want too much, we bind ourselves with chains. When we know contentment, we unlock our souls to freedom. Happiness is actually not far away. It lies in how we look at this life. Just like Uncle Hao, every evening he sits by the lotus field, pours a small cup of tea, and watches the flowers gently sway in the wind. He says, "As long as there's breath, there's an opportunity to live a meaningful life." Perhaps in that statement lies the essence of a lifetime of experience, having gone through suffering, but not being defeated. Serenity is not indifference, but knowing how to keep one's heart calm amidst change. It's smiling, even when someone speaks harshly. It's not complaining when losing something precious, but quietly thanking for having had it. It's maintaining one's own pace when everyone else is rushing. A serene person isn't serene because they don't face storms, but because they know that waves are also part of the ocean. Sometimes, life is like a strong wind that sweeps away all our plans. But if we can smile in the wind, we are truly living. Because every gust of wind is a reminder that we are still here, still breathing, still on our journey. When we appreciate every breath, every moment, every person by our side, we will see that happiness has never left us. People often ask, "How can I achieve peace of mind?" The answer isn't in changing the world, but in changing how we see the world. When we stop judging, stop craving, reduce our demands, the mind naturally settles. Just like a lake only reflects the sky when its surface is still. Similarly, only when the mind is no longer agitated can we see ourselves clearly. Uncle Hao once recounted that when he was young, he was very quick-tempered. Whenever someone said something wrong, he would react fiercely. But then he realized that others might bring the mud, but only he could decide whether or not to let the mud stir up his water. From the day he understood that, he began to learn to be silent, to learn to smile. He said, "No one can make you suffer if you don't allow it." That was the lesson he learned after a lifetime, after many seasons of lotuses, flowing and blooming. That seemingly simple statement is the key to happiness, because suffering can only take root if we allow it to remain in our hearts. When we know how to let go, how to accept, how to smile, then suffering also dissipates. Just as darkness cannot exist when there is light, afflictions cannot remain when the mind is clear. A serene person is not someone without problems, but someone who knows that all problems can be resolved with peace. When we are peaceful enough, everything around us also becomes peaceful. When we are clear enough, everything becomes clear. When we are compassionate enough, life becomes gentler. Sometimes, all we need to do is pause for a moment, listen to the wind, the leaves, the beat of our own hearts, and we will see that life is still beautiful. The things that bother us turn out to be just small ripples, while the vast ocean is still there, silent and profound. When we open our hearts to the world also opens its heart back to us. Living serenely is a journey, not a destination. It begins with understanding ourselves, accepting ourselves, loving ourselves, and then opening our hearts to life. Even if the wind blows, even if the water rises, even if people come and go, we remain ourselves, a smiling soul amidst the storms. And as Uncle Hao often told the children in the village, life cannot choose to live. It can only learn how to swim. Lotus grows in mud. People live in suffering. If they know how to bloom, they still smell fragrant. When we understand that, we will see that all suffering is an opportunity to learn. All loss is a lesson to grow. Life doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be peaceful. And peace doesn't come from outside, but from within each person's heart that knows how to smile. Today, if you are tired, stop for a moment. Take a deep breath. Feel the beat of your heart, and softly say, "I am still alive. I still have opportunities." Life doesn't promise to be easy, but it always gives us a new chance whenever we are ready to open our hearts. Live like the lotus, fragrant even in mud. Be like Uncle Hao, smiling amidst all storms. Be like the moon, even if clouds obscure it, its light is still there. For serenity isn't about the absence of storms, but about being able to be calm amidst them. And when we know how to live that way, each day that passes will be a gift. No matter how many times life knocks us down, as long as there is breath, there is an opportunity to live a meaningful life. Throughout the journey of passing through suffering, letting go, and learning serenity, humanity ultimately returns to the simplest truth the Buddha ever taught. Contentment is happiness. A peaceful mind is a blessing. Perhaps in this life, no one has ever not felt weary. Weary from chasing material things, weary from holding on to things that cannot be grasped, weary from constantly comparing oneself to others. We keep thinking that when we have more, when we achieve that thing, when others understand us better, we will find peace. But the further we go, the more we realize that what makes our hearts suffer is not the external world, but the ambitions, cravings, and attachments within. Some people are wealthy and renowned, yet they worry every night, fearing loss, fearing loneliness. And there are also very ordinary people living in a small house, eating simple meals, who can smile truly peacefully. The difference lies in one word: enough. When the heart knows enough, the wind blowing feels cool, the sun shining feels warm. But when the heart does not feel enough, no matter how beautiful the sky, we still feel restless. The Buddha taught that suffering does not lie in circumstances, but in a discontented mind. A contented mind is the key that opens the door to peace. Let's try to pause for a moment each day. How many times do we truly stop to feel our own breath, to look at the blue sky, to be grateful that we are still alive? Many times, we pass by small moments of happiness without even realizing it. A child's hug, a parent's smile, a simple meal with a loved one. These are precisely the things that countless people yearn for. Yet we often only remember them when they are lost, and then torment ourselves for not having appreciated them. If we know how to stop, to look deeply into each moment, we will see that this life is inherently abundant. Living contentedly does not mean being resigned or giving up. Contentment is understanding that everything is impermanent. What comes will go, what unites will separate. Contentment is knowing how to cherish what we have, not letting greed pull us away from peace. A content person does not cease to strive, but in every step, they are not dominated by ambition. They act with a peaceful mind, live with gratitude, and when they encounter loss, they do not despair, for they understand that it is also part of cause and effect. A contented mind will give rise to wisdom. When we are no longer dominated by insatiable desires, the mind becomes clearer. Seeing clearly the cause and effect of all things, we understand that every joy and sorrow is a lesson for us to grow. At that point, we know how to let go of unnecessary things, stop at the right time, forgive others and ourselves. Contentment is the root of liberation. In Buddhist teachings, there are 3 things that bring peace to human life: contentment, a peaceful mind, and clear wisdom. Contentment helps us overcome greed. A peaceful mind helps us overcome anger. And clear wisdom helps us overcome ignorance. These 3 things combine to form the foundation of true happiness. A person may not have much money or power, but if their heart is full of peace, they are the wealthiest person. Because the greatest wealth in the world is not in one's hands, but in one's heart. Like a lotus flower in a muddy pond, it still blooms purely, even when surrounded by dark mud. A content person is the same, even amidst a life full of gossip and disputes. They keep their hearts pure, They don't need to prove anything, don't need to win or lose, because they know that true happiness doesn't come from what others think, but from whether they live in harmony with the Dharma in their hearts. When we know contentment, even if the winds of life blow fiercely, they won't make us fall. When we know contentment, even in loss, we still smile because we understand that everything is merely a coming and going of conditions. Many people ask how to cultivate a contented mind amidst this busy life. The Buddha taught to begin by observing the breath and recognizing body and mind. Each day, dedicate a little time to sit still. Inhale deeply. Feel each breath entering and leaving. Look at yourself and ask, what do I truly need to be happy today? Perhaps the answer is not money, not fame, but simply a peaceful mind. When we realize this, greed naturally subsides, and a gentle joy arises like a cool breeze. One afternoon, a disciple asked the Buddha, "Blessed One, who is the wealthiest person?" The Buddha smiled and replied, "The one who knows contentment is the wealthiest person." This answer sounds simple, but is the essence of great wisdom. For wealth is not about how much one has, but about a heart that feels no lack. When we are not bound by craving, we will see ourselves living in a garden of flowers, even if life still has its muddy patches. Living contentedly is also a way to cultivate gratitude. When we are grateful for life, we will no longer feel lacking. Grateful for a healthy body, for loved ones by our side, for being able to wake up and see the sunrise. Small things like these, if we fully appreciate them, will become powerful healing energy. A grateful and contented mind are like wings that help us fly through life's storms without being swept away. If in this moment you are tired, stop for a bit, breathe deeply, close your eyes, and listen to your breath. Tell yourself, "I have enough." That small phrase, if spoken with awareness, will have a very soothing power. Because as soon as we say, "enough," the greed within us gradually dissipates, and peace of mind begins to blossom. And when the mind is at peace, we begin to see life differently. The early morning dust becomes clearer, the afternoon rain gentler. The people who once hurt us, we look at them with a forgiving heart. The things that once caused us suffering, we look back and smile, because we understand that it was thanks to them that we learned the lesson of contentment today. To conclude this journey, let us silently offer a prayer. May my body and mind be at ease. May I know contentment and not crave. May I live serenely in every moment. When this prayer arises from the depths of the heart, like a gentle fragrance spreading throughout the body and mind, we will feel a very real peace. That is the moment when all worries subside, and only the miraculous life existing in every breath remains. The temple bell rings, the wind rustles through the bamboo, the stream murmurs in the distance as if singing a song of serenity. In that moment, we understand that happiness is not far away. It is right within our hearts. In every moment, we are content, we love, we live. Live contentedly so that your mind may be at peace. Let go of what is unnecessary so that your heart may be light. Breathe deeply to see how fortunate you still are. This life is not long, but just one moment of contentment is enough to live a peaceful life.